Closing the loop on the plastics industry is one of the biggest challenges we currently face as a species. It's estimated that 8 million tons of plastic a year makes its way into our oceans. If we continue like this, by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in our seas. Today, our host, Rainbow Nelson, talks to Mark Minabu, the Regional Director for Latin America at Plastic Oceans International. They talk about how the world can look towards nature for some clues on how to close the loop on plastic production. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us on Adaptation. It's really great to have you on the show. Could you perhaps start by telling us a little bit about Plastic Oceans and how it's helping raise people's awareness of the problem we've created for ourselves?
Yeah, I mean the name says it all. Plastic oceans. We're working to have plastic waste free oceans. We want in our work make everybody think and rethink the relationship we have with plastics all around us. We know that a simple solution for this problem doesn't really exist because plastic is everywhere in our life. So we're working on many different projects and strategies to rethink plastic and limit the use of plastic, and especially, of course, the plastic pollution in our environment and the oceans. So we work on science. We do educational projects. We have audiovisual projects going on in the past and also in the future. We are very community orientated because we think that local voices should be heard on a global level and the other way around. So global trends and global voices also should somehow be translated to local realities and vice versa. So we are really an organization that on one hand works on grassroots initiatives. Could be really a simple beach cleanup. On the other hand, we work on global initiatives, like, for instance, the Plastics Pact. Maybe you've heard of it from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, where at least in Chile, we're part of the strategic board as an NGO. And also in Portugal, we're part of as one of the partners in the Portuguese Plastics Pact. And thus, having that position and that seat at the table, it's really easier for us when we have these conversations with multinational companies. Say, like, okay, it sounds very interesting, but maybe the consumer is not willing to buy this, or not interested in these ideas that you have about sustainability, and you maybe should do it in a different way. So it's very interesting to bring those small local voices to the table when we have those conversations in the Plastics Pact, but also the other way around. When some interesting things are happening in a Plastics Pact, also bring it back to local communities and explain them the changes that are coming and also how to be involved in those. And last but not least, we're also, especially in Chile, we're involved in legislative projects. We're very close on banning single-use plastics in Chile, all the single-use plastics related to the restaurants and the food industry. So we have been pushing for that legislation for about 2 years when we released a comparative report about different kind of regulations and legislations around the world. We proposed that to a select group of senators, representatives, and they proposed a bill to ban these kind of plastics. And now 2 years afterwards, working 2 years, we're very close on having a law in Chile that prohibits certain plastics. So we're very happy about that as well. That would be a pretty big milestone for us as Plastic Oceans Chile, but also Plastic Ocean International.
Congratulations. I mean, you're clearly very passionate about what you're doing, and, hats off for the work you've been doing in Chile and beyond. I mean, it's interesting to hear what you said about working with communities on a local level. I mean, it just seems really, really important that everybody comes together, right, to find solutions, to contribute their own experience and wisdom so that, together we can work to find an answer to the problem or problems that we're facing as a species. Given that a reported 8 million tons of plastic a year is currently making its way into our oceans, and that, if we continue like this, then supposedly by 2050 it is estimated that there will be more plastic than fish in our seas. I wanted to ask if you think that this actually represents an existential threat to us as a species.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Perhaps you could elaborate a little bit and maybe share with us some of the things that that others maybe don't.
As I said before, there are many types of plastic and many different uses of plastic. There's a lot of debate on the idea of plastics and if they're toxic in their use, in their daily use, but we're more focused right now on what happens with these plastics if they're not managed in the right way. And there's of course a lot of leakage in almost the entire plastics value chain. So there are many moments that plastics are interfering in ecosystems and in our lives. Even when when oil is being produced, that's already a very highly contaminating process. And then we're talking about turning this oil into polymers, the shipping of these polymers being turned into plastic products being sold, being used, being discarded. There's so many moments that plastic is escaping the system and is affecting the health of our ecosystems. That's one thing, but also something that is being studied a lot, but it's still not very clear. Although probably we can just take a guess on where this whole story is going. Plastic is already being found in the air that we breathe, in the water that we drink, the salt that we eat. There's already been found. Plastic particles has already been found in placentas. So plastic is totally entering in our organs, in our human system, and it happens to us. It happens to animals. Right now, the level of contamination of our own bodies with plastics and the toxins associated to them is still too small to determine if we really get sick from it. But of course, if you can imagine that all these plastics and these toxins are bioaccumulating, it's just a matter of time that we can start saying, hey, if we contaminate our own bodies to this level with plastics and toxins, of course, this will produce interference in our system, and it also interferes in the way our organs work, in how our bodies develop and grow. So yes, I think it's an existential threat. Not right now, but I think in the long term, yes, it is.
Clearly, we've been very negligent for a long time when it comes to taking care of our oceans. To the point where it also poses a threat on another front, i.e. the fight against global warming, combating climate crisis, climate change. How are the two connected?
Carbon is being stored in our oceans in many different ways, and one way is organisms, flora and fauna, species in many different ways. So if those species die or become sick, clearly carbon capture is being affected, but also the generation of oxygen is being affected. Food is being affected as well. So the whole food chain will be disrupted, and so on and so on. It's in a way, it's a chain reaction that we're triggering. It's a very slow one, but it's a slow one that is affecting everything on a long term. So especially when you talk about bioaccumulation, that means that these plastics and toxins are there to stay forever, and it will just accumulate and accumulate until you get to a certain point that it affects and makes us sick, and the organism as well. So yeah, in my opinion, it's definitely an existential threat on the long term, definitely.
Obviously, this is all very alarming, but do you think it's already too late? What can we do now that will help? I mean, it seems that one of the most important aspects is possibly raising the level of debate around this. You've spoken about how we need to work together to find a solution. What would you say to the industry, to the consumers and the authorities about what they can do to help close the loop on plastic production?
Part of the debate at the moment has been very much focused on single-use plastics and the consumer and what the consumer can do. But of course, that's a bit of a end of the life cycle debate. It's like, okay, we have all these plastics and we have no idea what to do with it, so let's figure out what to do with it, but we keep using them. And I think that's a big mistake and something that really definitely has to change. We see all around the world and also in Latin America that there's still a lot of focus on recycling, which in the end means we keep being irresponsible. And when the damage is already done, we try to limit the damage. The damage is still there. I think that's a mistake, because we should focus much more on avoiding the problem entirely and make sure that any product that is being released on the market for use already needs to have a plan, a concrete plan of what to do afterwards with it. So to make sure that we don't depend on recycling, don't depend on improvised solutions, we need to get back to the base of the problem, and that is that plastic is not a natural product. It's something that the ecosystem and our planet just doesn't have a solution for. So it will always be a mechanical solution. So there we have to change the use of plastics. We have to change the amount of polymers, the different polymers that we use in our products, which complicates a lot the end of use and end of life cycle management of plastics. If you go to a supermarket, you will find the typical 6 types of plastics, ranging from polyethylene to polypropylene, etc. But many of the products that we find in the supermarket are labeled 7, which is others, and 7 could be 60 different kind of plastics. And these plastics just don't have any management associated to them. There's too little of them, too complicated. Many products are made of different layers, and there's no technology to separate each layer. So it's very complicated to think that recycling it will solve this problem when we have so many different plastics already circulating out there. So we need to simplify the plastic products that we use. We need to label them in the right way. We have to, of course, increase our capacity to recycle, but we also have to make sure that many products don't need to be single use. They can definitely be reusable over and over again. Imagine that a reusable coffee cup, you can use it at least 100 times. So why would we still be focusing on, single-use coffee cups that they're made of paper, but in the end they're made of plastic in the inside, and throw them away 100 times when you have a reusable coffee cup that you can use 100 times, 200 times or more. And after that, you can still recycle it because it's only made of one type of plastic. So we have to really rethink how we use plastics, how we manage plastic, how we design products. And also, that's a big challenge that still we don't talk enough about, is the entire logistics. Right now, the value chain is we produce something, we sell you something, and you figure out what to do with it. While some countries are already changing to extended producer responsibility schemes, where the producer and the company that puts these plastics in the market are also responsible to recover them. So that's an incentive of creating products that are not disposable but should be circulating over and over and over again. The same way that nature works and ecosystems work. So we have to simplify plastic products. We have to change our logistics. We have to change the way we consume. We have to change how we design. And we have to change our waste management systems to make sure that no plastic escapes in any step of the process, from extracting oil to the disposal of a product after its use. So there's many ways how we can change the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying about using nature to help us find new, innovative ways to close the loop, to kind of help get us out of this situation, is so true. I mean, how do we better harness 3.8 billion years of research and development? How do we deploy whole systems thinking and biomimicry to help address this problem? In your opinion, what would you say are right now the biggest obstacles to a world without waste?
The principal obstacle right now is our economic system, which is linear. So it's just 100% focused on producing as cheap as possible and letting the problem of waste land on the plates of others, and not taking that into account as a cost. So for instance, if you're a multinational who produces coffee, and you come with coffee machines and coffee cups, in the end, the waste management is a cost not for that company. It's the cost for the municipality. It's a cost for the consumer. And I think that's not fair, to leave all the costs of waste management to others than the company who decided to put these kind of products in the market. So the big problem right now is our economic system of producing in a linear way, which is extraction, production, consume, and waste generation. And we have to change our economic system to a circular one. I am a big favor of that, and that's a revolution. That's not just saying sell a more sustainable product. It's the whole value chain. It's had to change everything.
Clearly, the idea of a circular economy is one that's been put forward by the likes of Kate Raworth and other interesting thinkers. You can see the idea gaining ground in cities around the world, like Amsterdam, amongst others, and it's clearly gaining traction. But if that's what is needed, how do we raise the consciousness around this so that it becomes the prevalent approach globally? I mean, there's still so many places that would need to adopt this for us to be able to really make a difference.
I think that's the biggest problem we have right now. In the end, the economic system we have right now was invented 260 years ago when we started the Industrial Revolution. And now in 2021, we're still thinking that same way that works, when we clearly know that our planet doesn't work like that.
So how do we go about introducing systems thinking everywhere? I mean, what are you doing, and how have you managed to contribute to the shift towards a healthier, more sustainable system?
It's inviting companies to design better, to design circular products, so they can design out waste. Right now, designs are based on generating waste and not, not being accountable for it. So that's an invitation to companies to design in a different way, to avoid, generating waste, and also avoid extracting more oil, but also other natural products that are being used right now for disposable products. So that's one invitation. Use all these smart people and companies that have research and development areas, and make them design in a different way. But also, on the other hand, we need to collaborate more. We need to invite everybody in the value chain and to design and consume in a different way. So we don't only say to companies you have to design better, but also, let them talk to the experts in the market and say, okay, we don't know anything about, the use of plastics. We need to be schooled and trained in the use of plastic in a responsible way. So that's also an invitation towards chemical companies, that they, just don't throw all these different plastics at companies and say like, yeah, this is the best solution, and then you don't buy it. So that's where we need more conversation, more collaboration. Consumers need to consume in a different way and be educated, to consume in a different way, so they make different choices once they are in the supermarket and buy a product. Why wouldn't they buy a reusable bottle instead of a disposable bottle? What's, keeping them from buying one alternative or another? And in many countries, that is a financial decision, where many people live on a weekly or a daily budget. Of course, if you have a daily budget, then a company needs to know, okay, if they have a daily budget, we have to sell them a product that is different than when you live in a country and a consumer makes a decision in a country where they have a monthly budget and they don't have to think about, okay, how I'm going to put food on the table today. So we cannot, there's not one single solution. We need to be more focused on local solutions, real local realities. But in the end, everything has to be circular, and it cannot be that a multinational company is being praised for their sustainability practices in Europe, while they keep selling single-use plastic packaging in underdeveloped countries, saying like, yeah, but they want to buy shampoo for one day, so I'm selling them a little plastic shampoo bottle or a sachet, that they use the plastic and they throw it away, but they don't have a waste system. So there we really need to redefine also the way we think about waste. We cannot just leave that up to municipalities, who then make different choices and they don't invest in waste management systems. So it's really about collaboration. It's really about, like, the Plastics Pact, where we're part of, where all players of the plastic value chain are present and work together to find solutions. It's all about collaboration, I guess, and also working with companies that before maybe we would say like we would never work with them. Right now, they have to become part of the solution, because if not, they're going to probably be out of business in the next 10 years. So
When you say that people are going to go out of business in 10 years, that seems like there's a kind of crystal clear incentive for business to move in this direction. But obviously, there are businesses that haven't cotton on to that yet. The dinosaurs, if you like. How can we get them to join something like the Plastics Pact, or are there other ways to bring them to think about their role in this problem?
some plastics really should not exist anymore. And if companies are not willing to take them off the market, then we have to go to these kind of lengths and just straight out ban them. We're in a hurry. We need to really clean up our act as human beings, as a society. And unfortunately, that sometimes also includes very unpopular moves like banning certain plastics, or single-use products of any kind, and clean up our environment and clean up our society as well.
So customer behavior is most definitely having an impact, and right, and placing pressure on companies to adapt. These dinosaurs, they're going to be dead in 10 years' time. Would you say that we've reached a point where we're seeing the behavior of companies changing at a speed, which means we will find a way out of this?
In certain companies more than others, I guess. Even within companies in one country, they're doing a great job, and in other countries, they don't. Like, for instance, in Chile, a big international brand of soda drinks, they presented the numbers that were pretty hopeful of reusable bottles is now part of about 55% of their portfolio. So that's really good news. 55% of a company that says that they sell 55% reusable bottles instead of single use bottles. That's a big deal. That's a big change. While 2 years ago they were promoting saying all our bottles are recyclable, within a year now they can say 55% of our bottles are reusable. That's a big deal. That's a big change. Unfortunately, many other companies are still using sustainability in a very limited way. Putting sustainability on single-use products is, I think, it's tricking the consumer into thinking that they're being more sustainable. But as long as something is single-use, which means single-use and everything, or becomes, hopefully, if we're lucky, ends up in the recycling stream, but most of them still ends up as waste. I think that's a mistake, and that's just showing that you still haven't learned your lesson.
You don't sound very optimistic about the possibility of us recycling our way out of this.
Worldwide, about 9% of plastics are being recycled in 2020. 9%. That's really low, and you should know that recycling technology has been around since the 70s. So that's 50 years to get to only a 9% recycling rate. That's a really sad number. Any company would say, like, that's a result that's really underperforming.
Exactly. There are clearly advances being made in the area of recycling, but there's a very long way to go for that to be a realistic solution to the issue of plastic pollution and really being able to close the loop. There are at least signs of progress with that, though, right? When you see how a broken kind of global recycling system is slowly being shut down, that seems like an important step forward, correct?
A lot of illegal shipping of waste, or shipping of waste from Europe, United States, UK, Canada, Australia towards Asian countries is being regulated more and more. So that's really positive as well by the Basel Convention. Well, that would be a whole entire podcast about that. But just to mention that, because a lot of waste is being shipped to Asian countries, which I think is just hiding the problem, of developed countries generating a lot of waste and then shipping it to other countries and make them deal with it. I think that's really a crime, in my opinion. When they don't have the facilities to really process that waste.
What would you say are the most positive changes that you've seen in your time involved in this mission? Are there things out there that give you optimism?
When we started with Plastic Oceans in 2017, at least in Chile, as a country, we didn't even, have a plastic bag ban. There was starting to have a discussion about, single-use plastics. I feel we made a difference there in 2017, starting that discussion about single-use plastics. Now in Chile, and that's only one example, of course, but as a country, I've seen this change. We have a single-use bags ban. We're going to have a single-use plastics ban. We're going to have a national strategy for circular economy towards 2040. We have an extended producer responsibility law that came into effect this year. So I've seen many changes just in one country, and I would like to think that kind of change, and I think Chile is being pretty ambitious with that compared to other countries, but that happened. I've seen Europe changing a lot. They're a big consumer and a big waste generator. So if Europe is changing, that is very positive. So yeah, that gives me hope.
It really is a case of everybody needing to come together, right? I mean, there really does seem to be a sense of momentum building. Would you say that's fair?
Government's doing some stuff. There's private initiatives that look for funding opportunities to install, waste processing capacities and capabilities and infrastructure, because clearly in many countries that's really lacking, and because there's not enough waste processing infrastructure, we cannot expect plastic to become in a way circular, because it's very interesting if we can, recycle plastics, but if there's no companies that want to use recycled plastics in their products, again, this whole circular idea, this circular economy is never going to work. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on as well, but we need more volume. We need more companies saying, hey, why do we need to have a bottle made of virgin plastics when they easily can be made of recycled plastics? Or why do we even need a bottle, a single-use bottle, when we can maybe install refilling stations in supermarkets, and the consumer can go there and just refills a bottle and use it all over and over again for maybe 50 times. So there's interesting business models also going on in Chile and other parts of the world as well. Like a company like Algramo, that's a Chilean company that is doing really interesting projects for the last 7 years, and they're an international example of working with big multinational companies, changing the way they do business. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, but we need volume. We need to scale up all these efforts.
There seems to be so much happening at the moment. There are plenty of places to look for inspiration. But when you see the images of the great garbage pile in the Pacific, or turtles trapped in fishing nets, or the mountains of junk accumulating on islands in the Pacific, I can see how it's easy for some people to feel overwhelmed by things. What seems to be new, though, and this is what, there seems to be so many people starting to see the value in waste, starting to understand things from a more holistic perspective. And it's no coincidence for me that these people are using nature, or copying nature, if you like, to shape our response to this.
Well, we have to look at nature. If a rabbit in Europe wants to eat a carrot, but the carrots can only be found in China, well, it's easy. The rabbit is not going to eat a carrot. It's going to look for other food close to home. That's how nature works. The rabbit is not going to import these carrots from the other side of the world. So that's why we have to look at waste, and what we're doing and what we're consuming is, we have to look at what's available locally. What can I do locally, and how can I process? If I generate any waste, how can I process it locally and don't lose value? So one thing is, we have to process our problems locally, but also we have to generate that value locally, because it doesn't make any sense if you ship all the plastic to China or to Vietnam or to Indonesia, and there they don't have any way to process it. And as you say, there are great opportunities if you change your design, if you can add value to that same kind of plastic. But that, of course, means that the same companies who are generating that waste, a multinational that sells shampoo bottles, for instance, they have to find a way how to incorporate that same recycled plastic in their own bottles. And if they think that they don't like that, then they must maybe look for a way to have refilling stations, or a way to refill these same bottles all over again, so they don't become waste ever again. Because in a way, it's calculated in their system that they sell you a bottle, they charge you for the shampoo, but they also charge the consumer for the bottle. But the consumer is not interested in buying that bottle. They're only interested in what's in it. So what would happen to your business model if you stop selling plastic bottles and you start selling only shampoo, and you find a way how the consumer can access your product in a more sustainable way? And that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to rethink your business model, because if not, there's going to be more regulations. You're going to be charged as a company, and if you want to avoid that kind of charging of costs, then you have to be creative. And they're big enough to think about that. They're big enough. They were just never triggered, or they were never pressured to change the way they were producing and selling to the consumer, and now they are. And if they don't change in the next 5 years, probably they won't have a business anymore. So it's just, it's urgent, the situation. There's still time to change. There are enough examples around the world that shows that you can make a business out of it, but that means that everybody has to participate. That's key to this change, that's transition that we need around the world, is we need to do it in a collaborative way, and everybody has to make money, maybe make less money or make smarter money. But right now, it's not possible that the cost of cleaning up everything, the mess, is on municipalities, it's on consumers, and it's on nature. It's not sustainable.
Hey, thanks, Mark. You've been an amazing guest. Please keep up all the great work you're doing with Plastic Oceans. We wish you all the best.